The rain hammered against the viewport of Morris's ground car as he navigated through the dim streets of New Seattle's industrial district. His daughter Anastasia sat beside him, her small face pressed against the glass, watching the world blur past in streaks of neon and shadow. "Dad, slow down," she said suddenly, her voice tight with concern. Maurice eased off the accelerator, glancing at his 10-year-old daughter. "What is it, sweetheart?" "There." Anastasia pointed toward an alley between two abandoned warehouses. "Someone's there." Maurice followed her gaze and saw a figure huddled against the wall, barely visible in the downpour. His military instincts kicked in immediately, analyzing, assessing. The figure was too tall, the proportions slightly wrong. Not human. "Dad, she's freezing," Anastasia whispered, her breath fogging the window. Maurice had seen enough suffering during the frontier wars. He'd lost his wife to those wars, raised Anastasia alone for 5 years, and learned that compassion was often the hardest battle to fight. But his daughter's voice carried a plea he couldn't ignore that he pulled the car over. The alien woman was a Valasian, Maurice realized as he approached with an emergency thermal blanket. Her blue-gray skin had taken on a dangerous pale hue, and her crystalline eyes, normally luminescent, were dim and unfocused. Valasians were cold-blooded, dependent on external heat sources. In Earth's autumn rain, she was dying. "We need to get her warm," Maurice said, already lifting her surprisingly light frame. Anastasia held the car door open, her young face set with determination. They brought her home. The Valasian woman's name was HFY, though she could barely whisper it that first night. Maurice set her up in the spare room, surrounded by space heaters and thermal blankets. Anastasia refused to leave her side, reading her stories while Maurice prepared hot soup that HFY couldn't eat, but seemed to appreciate nonetheless. Why was she on the street? Anastasia asked that night as Maurice tucked her into bed. "Sometimes the galaxy isn't kind to those who are different," he said carefully. "Sometimes people fall through the cracks. Like how some kids at school say mean things about you being a veteran." Maurice smiled sadly. "Something like that." Over the following weeks, HFY's story emerged in fragments. She'd come to Earth as a translator for a Valasian trade delegation. When the company dissolved amid financial scandal, she'd been stranded, no funds, no way home, and no one willing to help an alien in a human city still healing from interstellar conflict. But Maurice had fought alongside non-humans during the wars. He'd seen their courage, their honor. He'd learned that humanity wasn't defined by species, but by choices. HFY stayed. She learned to cook human food, though she couldn't taste it. She helped Anastasia with her homework, her mathematical mind making quick work of calculus problems that baffled Maurice. She taught them Valasian meditation techniques and told them stories of her homeworld's crystalline seas. And slowly, Morris's house became a home again. 7 years passed like pages turning. Anastasia was 17 now, preparing for university entrance exams. She'd grown into a brilliant young woman with her mother's kindness and her father's steel spine. HFY had become family. Not a guest, not a charity case, but the aunt who never left, the friend who understood silence as well as words. Maurice noticed them whispering one evening. Noticed the way HFY's crystalline eyes seemed brighter than usual. "Dad, sit down," Anastasia said, her voice carrying that same determination it had held 7 years ago. "HFY has something to tell you." The Valasian woman folded her long fingers together, a gesture Maurice had learned meant deep emotion. "Maurice, do you remember when you asked me once why I stayed? Why I didn't try to return to Velis when I recovered?" He nodded. "You said Earth had become home. That was true, but not complete." HFY's skin rippled with colors that signified gratitude in her species. "On Velis, I was a translator, yes. But I was also minor nobility. Minor enough to be expendable, important enough to be embarrassing when stranded." Maurice felt Anastasia tense beside him. "Last month, the Valasian Crown Council finally overthrew the corrupt regime that abandoned me. They've been searching for survivors of the diaspora." HFY pulled out a holographic communicator. "They found me 3 weeks ago." Morris's heart sank. Of course, she'd want to go home. "They offered me a position on the new Cultural Integration Council," HFY continued, "coordinating human-Valasian relations. It's prestigious, powerful." She paused. "I told them I would accept on 3 conditions." Anastasia was grinning now. First, that they formally apologize to you, Maurice, for their government's failure to protect one of their citizens, whom you rescued. Second, that they establish a fund for stranded aliens on Earth, so no one else suffers what I suffered. Kyrvie's eyes met Morris's directly. And third, that they provide full scholarship and diplomatic sponsorship for Anastasia to attend the Valasian Institute of Xenolinguistics. She's expressed interest in following in my old footsteps, and she's brilliant enough to excel. Maurice felt his breath catch. Kyrvie, they agreed to everything. Anastasia burst out. And Kyrvie's going to be based on Earth anyway, coordinating between both worlds. She's not leaving, Dad. She's staying, and now she can actually help others the way you helped her. The old soldier felt tears he'd thought long dried up pricking at his eyes. He'd rescued a freezing alien from an alley 7 years ago because his daughter had a kind heart. He'd expected nothing in return, but the galaxy, it seemed, remembered kindness. You didn't have to do this, Maurice said quietly. Kyrvie's skin shimmered with warmth. You taught me that humanity, true humanity, isn't about species. It's about choosing to act when others look away. You gave me family when I had nothing. Her crystalline eyes sparkled. This isn't repayment. This is what family does. Anastasia hugged them both, and Maurice realized that the war-scarred veteran who'd once thought his capacity for love had died with his wife had been wrong. Love, like humanity, was infinite, if you had the courage to share it. Outside, rain began to fall again on New Seattle. But inside Morris's home, there was only warmth.